Welcome, Simon. You have the clicker? Let's do that again, okay? So, please welcome Simon.
Thank you. What has happened here? Okay, I've thought it out, right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. We're right at the end of the day. This is the proper graveyard shift, so please don't all leave just yet. I promise you it's going to be interesting. So, everybody in the audience, please put your hands up if you like podcasts. Yeah, that's a lot of people. I've got to say, I learned almost everything I learned about Bitcoin from podcasts. I do think they're absolutely amazing. Anybody in the audience like adverts in podcasts? That's nobody. Yeah, I don't like them either. So my mission with the project I have here, FanFares, is to try to find a way for podcasters to monetize effectively without putting ads on their podcasts, without having sponsors. So that's what I'm going to take you through here. How does this work? Can I click it? Really? Oh, okay, right, I'm going to have to wing it then. I uploaded it, but yeah, that's all that's there. Okay, all right. Okay, anyway, so yeah, the application, it's built on Nostr. Nostr is a decentralized media protocol, if you haven't used it already. Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer payment system. So if we look at the way the internet evolved, I think if you really want to understand how we got to the situation where we are, with the internet being so funded by advertising, we really have to look at the way the internet has evolved, how we got to where we are today. So back in the 90s, the dot-com boom, a lot of people were creating websites, and a lot of these websites got an enormous amount of funding from venture capital companies, and they floated on the stock exchange. We had the dot-com boom. That was how they were funded. They didn't really have an idea of how they could actually make money. So what we then had was the dot-com crash, when people figured out that the transformation that we were experiencing, the new media concept just didn't have a monetization system. So what really changed that at the end of the 90s was the invention of the click-through advertising link, pay-per-click. It was a way that you could put an advert on a website. When you clicked on it, you go to another website, but they would know where you came from. But also, you would get a lot of information about the user as to what their age, their demographics, their location, and all of that information was really useful for advertisers because they could then target their advertising at the user and have a better return on investment. If you just send the same advert to everyone, not everyone's going to respond to it. But if you know about that person, if you know their data, you can get a better monetization system. So that one invention is what has led to the internet that we have today, where everything is free, it's all funded by advertising, and our data is a commodity. We're paying with our time and with our attention. It's not the best possible outcome, but it basically comes about because things on the internet are copyable, and so everything tends to be free. So the idea is, perhaps with the peer-to-peer payment mechanism of Bitcoin, and with the decentralized publishing system that is Nostr, potentially we have a way to create better monetization for creators. So what we currently have now is value for value. Anyone that's been listening to podcasts on Fountain, you'll know that you have the opportunity to tip the creator. So it's a direct peer-to-peer payment using Bitcoin Lightning, which obviously is an amazing invention because it's fast, instant Bitcoin payments which have never existed before. You can't do that with fiat money, but you can do it with Bitcoin. So you can make very small payments at very low transaction costs. Fiat money has a minimum transaction fee of 15 cents for a credit card transaction. With Bitcoin, you can do those very small payments at very low cost. The problem with value for value is that not everybody pays. In reality, very few people pay. Quite often, it's just because we're all a bit lazy. We listen to the podcast, we want to support the creator, we can't be bothered to make the payment. So the reality is that at the moment, value for value is relatively low monetization for creators. The concept that we're creating in FanFares is to have podcasts that are gated. So you can only access the podcast after you make the Lightning payment. And this is a very different concept, and it's one that's actually quite controversial in the cypherpunk world. Because what a lot of people tell us is that information has to be free. Because everything's copyable, it has to be free. It's the only way it can work. But what we've come up with is a way that our application on Nostr, the creators can upload their content on there. They can do maybe like a 2-part episode. The first part can be free, it can go out on all the normal podcast applications. But during the podcast, they can describe the second part that's available on FanFares, where they can go and they have to make the payment. If they do that and they like the rest of the podcast, then they have the opportunity to repost it on Nostr or on another social media app, perhaps on Twitter or Facebook, where they might have millions of followers. If they do that, then it's possible for them to earn a payment split. So they can get part of the money that the other customers end up paying if the creator wants to share that with them. They're effectively being recruited as promoters of the content for doing reposting around the internet. This means that there's never an incentive for anyone to take the premium content, the gated content, and give it away for free. If they do, then people just won't tend to find it because there'll be a lot more people posting around the paid-for content because they're all getting paid to do that. So there's no incentive to give away the content that they've paid for. So we think there's going to be a number of use cases for this. One is, like I've described, you could have the 2-part episode where the second part is paid for, or you could have content without ads at all. Now, I think this is going to be a really good killer app for this application because whenever we listen to a podcast, we're effectively giving away 5, 6, 7 minutes of our lives. If we could pay maybe just 10 cents for a podcast, we wouldn't have to give away that time. Time is the only thing that's more scarce than Bitcoin. So for me, I think that's actually a pretty good deal. To pay a small amount of money just to get access to that podcast, it's worthwhile. Now, the reason I would say 10 cents there is because for most of us, that's an amount of money we don't have to think about. We'll just go ahead and pay it. We want the podcast. For some people in the world, that is a lot of money. So we'd like to keep the minimum fee pretty low. But the idea is they can pay more than that. So there's still that concept of value for value there. They could pay 10 cents, they could pay 50 cents, they could pay $5 if they want to. But the point is we've moved the friction to a different place. Instead of being the laziness of it can't be bothered to pay for that podcast, they're in a situation where they're ready to make a payment. They're taking the time to make the payment. So if they like the creator, they don't want to be cheap and just pay 10 cents, maybe they'll pay $1. But the reality is everyone has to pay. So the crowdfunding mechanism can work. Maybe if a creator has 100,000 customers, they can earn $10,000 for that podcast. Most podcasters put out 1 episode a week. They can make quite a lot of money doing that. It's a whole different monetization system. What we have at the moment is value for value, creators are getting very little. So we're trying to change the way the mechanism works, trying to change the emphasis onto the idea that everyone's going to make a payment, and that's the easiest route for them because they want to hear the rest of the story, they want to hear the rest of the interview. So as I've said, the concept of everything being free on the internet, that can be disrupted with this peer-to-peer payment system. The recruiting of the audience as the customer would work really well on Nostr because Nostr is a web of trust technology. It's one where people are building reputations. If they do have a following, they can monetize that following by promoting content around the internet. This becomes a new discovery mechanism that hasn't really been tried with before. What we have on Web 2 is the algorithm. The algorithm monitors what we do, figures out what we like, delivers the content that's most likely to get us to buy something. What we can have on Nostr is a decentralized promotion system where people are finding good content, broadcasting it around the internet, and earning a split of the money when people actually pay for the content. So this changes the game because the control is in the hands of the users that are paying for stuff. They're choosing what they like. It's not with the advertisers that are paying for the free content and delivering the stuff that effectively pushes our buttons and makes us buy things that we don't really want. So we think this is a new system. We're starting with podcasts. We're going to do videos, gaming, potentially open source code can turn into paid source code, where people download stuff that they like, they appreciate it, they tell other people about it. The other people have to make the small payment to get the access. So the developers that have created the code, they're effectively selling copies. It's much like the old system we had before the internet, when people used to sell books and they used to sell CDs. That was much more profitable for creators than busking. Busking never really made a lot of people a lot of money, albeit the publishers did take most of the money. The middlemen took a lot of money. But the equivalent of them now is Spotify and YouTube, who do take most of the money when advertisers or subscriptions are paying for that content. The creators are getting fractions of 1 cent per stream when their podcast is watched on YouTube or Spotify. So we're trying to democratize the situation, decentralize the delivery of media, put the control back into the hands of users, save our time not watching boring adverts, and give creators a better monetization system using Bitcoin and Nostr, which are an upgrade to the internet. Thank you very much for listening. There you go.
Sorry.
Yeah, I must be the way I uploaded it. I uploaded it and that's all that's there, right?